Charles and Vincent, do you have any interesting Advent traditions?
Well, it's doing the twist.
Eisenhower is just... He's face-palming right now.
All right. We'll leave Ike and the twist out of this. No, there's a lot to do with Advent. What's the first thing we know about Advent?
I don't know. What's the first thing?
Okay. In 2 days' time, you're going to go to Mass. Now, what are you going to notice about the priest?
He's wearing different colors?
Ah, which color in particular? This is
Purple?
teeth. Yes! Very good. All right. Now, what is purple symbolic of?
Royalty? Rebirth?
Help me, Mommy. What is the other season of the year when they wear purple?
Easter? Lenten?
Lent.
Lent.
Okay. Now, no. Okay, Lent. Now, what is the hallmark of Lent?
The hallmark of Lent is fasting?
Ah, penance.
Penance.
Ah! Okay. Advent used to be kept like Lent.
Ah.
In the Eastern rites, they have what they call, this period of time, is called the Nativity Fast.
Okay.
All right. So, what I'm saying is, what are you looking at me?
Purple symbolizes penance?
Yes.
Huh. Okay.
It does symbolize royalty also, that's true, but not in this context.
Okay.
This context, it's penance, which is why you have it in Lent, why you have it in Advent, and a couple of other times a year. Okay. And why, in the new Mass, they use it for funerals. And you'll see it on All Souls Day in the new Mass.
Okay.
So, anyway. So where are we with this? The problem we have today is that Christmas begins the day after Halloween. But that's the commercial Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay. But Advent continues up to and including Christmas Eve. It ends with Midnight Mass. And traditionally, that period was spent in a not quite as extreme form of Lent.
Okay.
So, a lot of the customs that we have from that period of time have to do with fasting and abstinence.
That makes sense.
Ah. But there are feast days scattered throughout that time. So
We don't have to fast on feast days, do we?
we don't have to fast on feast days. And not just that, not on big feast days. And mind you, there's no requirement to fast or abstain at all during Advent today. It's all a question of private devotion. But traditionally, the only sign of Christmas that you would have in a Catholic house before Christmas Eve was perhaps the empty manger. That is to say, you'd have the manger itself, the little house.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have Jesus and Mary, but no baby Jesus. No sheep. No shepherds. No three kings. No reindeer. None of that. All right. And then on Christmas Eve, they make a big deal about placing the Christ child on the manger.
Ah.
They bring in the shepherds. And then the Epiphany, they bring in the three kings. And then they keep that up till Candlemas. That was how that was done. There'd be no greenery. There'd maybe be a Jesse tree up. And of course the Advent candles.
What's a Jesse tree?
A Jesse tree is a sort of wooden thing that shows you the descent of Christ from the Old Testament people.
Is it an actual tree?
No, it's a wooden thing. It looks like a tree. It's shaped like a tree.
Oh.
So those are things people did. The saints' days that come up that percolate the period, they're interesting. You have on December the 4th, St. Barbara's feast day. And that's a big deal because it's the third or fourth. I'm stuck here, ladies and gentlemen, doing this live. You look it up. But I think she's the fourth. But she's the patroness of the artillery and engineering and explosions. and stuff like that.
Why is she the patroness of those things?
She's the patroness of those things because her father persecuted her for her faith, and he ended up getting killed by a lightning bolt.
Okay, that'll do it.
That'll do it. 2 days later, you've got St. Nicholas. And I love St. Nicholas. Not just because he's Santa Claus.
Oh.
But because in his own right, he was a bishop in Asia Minor. His tomb is still venerated. His bones are now in Bari, which is a town that should be dear to you.
Oh, it is.
They've got a huge basilica there. And he still has the oil that comes out of his bones.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it always has. It did when he was in Turkey, back in the 700s. And it's a big day in different parts of Europe for giving gifts, Germany and the Netherlands and all that. And very often, someone will come not as Santa, but as St. Nicholas, dressed as a bishop. Usually with a sidekick, very often black. The sidekick carries a switch. So St. Nicholas comes to reward the good boys and girls, and his pal comes to, punish the other ones. The kids are always afraid of the other one, but St. Nicholas doesn't let him do anything bad. And then you've got December the 8th, which is the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. Now this is a very important feast for us here in the United States.
Holy day of obligation, for one.
It is, but it's our national day.
Oh, that's right.
Like St. Patrick for the Irish, St. Andrew for the Scots, tax day for the Californians. What? Well, anyway, so it's a very, very important day. And I mean, really, you should have barbecues and fireworks and all that on December 8th. That's when we should celebrate being American.
Yeah.
Then you've got on December 12th, you've got Our Lady of Guadalupe, Empress of all the Americas. And December 13th, you've got St. Lucy's Day. And all of these days have customs that were attached to them traditionally. What you do with them now, of course, is very much up to you. But try to keep Advent in a more penitential manner. Just go to the Christmas parties you don't really have a choice to go to. And, start doing them yourself after Christmas, during the 12 days.
I think I'm going to do that when I start a family. Is I'm going to do the gift giving after Christmas on Epiphany.
No.
Because I like that, because then you keep Christmas Christ-centric.
Yeah, well, that's what my brother does.
Yeah. And also, too, the other benefit, because my sister does this, is the big benefit is you get to buy the after Christmas sales.
That's for sure.
It's huge discounts, yeah.
Similarly, if you don't put up the Christmas tree until Christmas Eve, they are cheap.
Yeah.
They are cheap.
Yeah.
And if you just put up the Christmas greenery and all that on Christmas Eve and decorate the house on Christmas Eve, and if you've been keeping Advent, to some degree, the more you fast and abstain during Advent, the more Christmas morning explodes on you. As with Easter, I mean, if you keep Lent very strictly, that first meal with meat on Easter, you can barely contain yourself. But the other thing too, is if you keep Christmas Day, or Christmas Eve rather, as a day of fast and abstinence, which it was in the traditional calendar, that next day, your Christmas dinner is going to mean so much more to you. These things are given us for a reason, They work psychologically. They work with our nature, and we get rid of them because they're unpleasant. But then we don't understand why it is we're sick of Christmas the day following.
Yeah.
Whereas the other thing too is that there's all this pressure during that period they call the holidays, which is really December, to do this and that and this. And by the time you come to Christmas, most people have been to a Christmas party almost every day. They've all gained 12 pounds.
Yeah.
They've spent a ton of money, and they're not happy with it. you know. If I think for some people, not me, because I'm actually listening to it on my radio right now, but a lot of radio stations have this all holiday music
Right.
from Thanksgiving to Christmas. Very little religious. Holiday music.
Of course, religious. That's yeah. You can't do that.
No, 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 no. And, you know, don't get me wrong. I like Frosty the Snowman. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. It's true. I like chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Jack Frost nipping it. Anyway.
I like Adeste Fidelis more.
Yeah, I do too. But I'd be lying if I said I dislike the secular Christmas music. It's just that an unadulterated diet of nothing but
Yeah.
gets cloying.
Yeah.
Because it's all about feelings of different kinds, which you may or may not feel. You know? I mean, I'll be home for Christmas. You can count on me. And, you know, I have to admit that phrase has always struck me ever since my dad died. And I always generally going to be very honest and open. My dad loved Christmas. And for me, Christmas was really Christmas with him. Christmas in that sense. In the sense of where the love light gleams. My dad's dead these 22 years. There will never again for me on this earth be a home like the one I had when my parents were both alive. You know, I mean, I even if I had gotten married, there'd be that home.
Yeah.
For the kids and so forth, we'd be establishing it. But I will never be able to go back to that home. And I don't mean home in terms of a physical location. So those sorts of things don't have the same effect on me.
Mm.
Whereas the religious ones remind us of the reality behind Christmas. You know? When you get to a certain age, you hear things like, have yourself a merry little Christmas. And here we are, as in olden days, merry golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us gather near to us once more. The problem is, once you reach a certain age, I'm not quite there yet, thank God, but I can see it coming. Most of those friends are dead.
Yeah.
So the problem with our Western Christmas, that's become so irreligious and so secular, is that it's based upon feelings that wane after a while.
Mm.
And that's why so many people are suicidal around the holidays. You know, if I were living alone in a town, let's say I just arrived and I don't really know anybody, you know what I would do for Christmas?
What?
I'd get a tree.
Okay.
And I'd decorate it. And I'd get a nativity set. But I would go to 3 masses of Christmas. I would go to the midnight mass. I would go to the mass at dawn, which I've never been to in my whole life. And I would go to the morning mass. Why? Because I've got nothing else to do. Why not give it all up to our Lord completely?
Mm.
You know, if I had no family or friends of my own in a particular place, why not just focus completely on the birth of our Lord?
It's true.
But without that focus, the holiday becomes almost a cruel joke.
Yeah.
If all it is a celebration of friends and family and togetherness and all that, and I'm all for friends, family, and togetherness, believe you me, but if that's all it is, it will fail you with a big resounding pop. That's why the suicide rates go up. That's why all sorts of unpleasantries happen during Christmas, because people feel cheated somehow. They're led to expect a feeling which may or may not actually occur, as that ancient medieval hymn, Rocking Around the Christmas Tree, assures us. You will get a sentimental feeling. What if you don't? What if you don't get that sentimental feeling? Where does that leave you?
That's true.
So, for my part, I would say keep Advent strictly, celebrate whichever of those saints' days strike your fancy, and I hate to sound like a Hallmark card, but keep Christ in Christmas. And regardless of your circumstances, you will have a Merry Christmas. You got to. What about oplatki? You're Slovak.
Oh, well, yeah. We Christmas Eve is the most special meal of the year in our house. I have an Italian last name, but I also have a lot of Slovak blood in me on my my mom's side. So you made that joke last episode about the 7 fishes of Italy. Well, we don't do that actually. We do a Slovak Christmas. We've incorporated some fish now at my dad's behest, but for all the years prior, it was purely a Slovak Christmas, and so that involved mostly famine food, pierogies, babalki. But what makes the meal so special is the beginning of it. You have, as you say, oplatki. Oplatki, I guess, this is an Eastern. This is a Slovak tradition.
It's Slovak, Polish, Ukrainian, Eastern. Speaking the Eastern rites as well.
Yeah, and basically, what oplatki is, it's a wafer like the Eucharist, but it's in bigger square shapes. And what we do is we dip it in honey, and we share the oplatki with each other, and we just use that as a preface to the meal. And it's very nice. Oh, actually, before even that, what we do is we take a glass of whiskey, and we each take a sip. I usually just wet my lips. I didn't take it, but everybody, that you pass the whiskey glass around. Everybody takes a sip, and well, the whiskey glass, usually hardly anybody would drink from the whiskey glass, and then it finished at my dad. And my dad, well, it was left to him to finish the glass of whiskey, and he didn't have any complaints. He made the sacrifice for us all.
That's so brave. So brave. I appreciate that kind of bravery.
But yeah, and, we always do it by candlelight, so it has a very solemn feeling. Oh, pea soup's another thing we do. But yeah, so Christmas Eve is it's the most solemn meal of the year for sure. It's always had this special place in my mind.
Well, you see, and honestly, ladies and gentlemen, I do think, Christmas, even for the secular mind, even for the secular world, it still has a touch of its magic. And I do think that one of the reasons why the celebration of Christmas has been anticipated like 3 months is because life today is so harsh and nasty.
That's true. That's very true.
I've said the worst element of the sentimental feeling stuff, and it's, that's all true, but at the same time, for those who can get it invoked by the look of Christmas balls and tinsel and all that, what a relief from the everyday awful horror.
Right.
So, I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. Fortunately, we have 2 more broadcasts before our Gala Christmas episode.
Our Gala Christmas episode? Is that what we're going to do?
Yeah, we're going to rocking around the Christmas tree, have a happy holiday. No?
It's okay. I don't mind it. I'm very tolerant.
Well, the tolerance is next to cleanliness. I don't know. But anyway, seriously, ladies and gentlemen, life is a great adventure. And these great holy days of ours are lamplights along that road of adventure. So, Advent is beginning. Keep it as well as you possibly can. And I guarantee you, your Christmas will be wonderful. And maybe you can send away to the same place in Pennsylvania where they get their oplatki.
Okay, that's it for this episode. If you'd like to send Charles a question, you can do so through the Tumbler House website, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, and remember, the soul you save may be your own.